Alright, so we are still under first principle. We have already done y equals to what? Cos inverse of what? S, right? So let's do this. Please, sorry for the noise. This place is still under construction. That is why you may be hearing some sound. Please just bear with me. So now, we are having y equals to what? Sine inverse of what? S. So you should know by now that sine y equals to sine inverse of S is the same thing as what? Sine y equals to what? S. How do we arrive at this? Y equals to sine inverse of S. In indices, this negative one simply means y equals to what? 1 all over sine. Then multiply by what? S. If you cross multiply sine, it's just 1 all over sine. So sine times y is the same thing as what? Sine y equals to what? S. You get that. So now we call this our equation what? 1. Then the next thing is we are going to add change in y to y and what? Change in s to s. So we are going to add sine y plus change in y. Sine y plus change in y equals to s plus change in s, equation what? 2. Then the next thing is you subtract equation 2 from equation what? 1. So you subtract this side from this side, this from this. So it becomes sine y plus change in y minus sine y equals to s plus change in s minus what? S. And you notice that this s will cancel out this s. So we're left with what? Sine y plus change in y minus sine y equals to what? Change in s. Do you get that? So now the next thing we are going to do is, if you look at this from factor formula, we can compare this. You have to recall from factor formula, you have to recall that sine s minus sine y is equals to what? 2 cos s plus y over 2 sine s minus y over 2. You have to recall this from factor formula. Do you get that? So you can also check factor formula for this. I've proved this now. You can check it. So now we are going to compare and contrast. So how do we do this? It means that y plus change in y will be equals to what? S, and y is still equals to what? Y. You get that? So now it means that sine y plus change in y minus sine y. Now we want to compare this with this, which is equals to what? 2. So now it means that if we are comparing this with this, anywhere we see s, now in this expression we replace it with what? This. It means this will be equals to s and this will be equals to what? Y. So it means that this one will be equals to 2 cos s plus y. S plus y is nothing but what? Y plus change in y. Then y is still equals to what? Y over 2 sine s minus y. S is still the same thing as what? Y plus change in y. Y plus change in y minus y over what? Over 2. So if you look at this, this is equals to what? 2 cos 2y. Y plus y is what? 2y. 2 cos 2y plus change in y all over 2 sine y will cancel out y, then we left with change in y over 2. Do you get that? So now we can now go back to our work now. So this now is equals to what? This. So we can now say this is equals to what? Change in s. So it means that 2 cos 2y plus change in y over 2 sine change in y over 2 is equals to what? Is equals to change in s. Is equals to change in s. So now the next step is we divide through by what? Change in y, not change in s. So we are going to divide both sides by what? Change in y. So it means that 2 cos 2y plus change in y over 2 sine change in y over 2 all over what? Change in y is equals to what? change in s over what? Change in y. Do you get that? So now, but if I'm saying this, because I know that I told you guys to watch this, I know that lim has changed in s approaching 0 of sine sine s over s is equals to what? 1. Do you get that? Sorry, lim has s approaching 0 of sine s over s is nothing but what? 1, and lim as s approaching 0 of tan s over s is still the same thing as what? 1. I've proved this. So please check all this. It's on the channel there. It's on the channel there. So now, so this, I can decide to move this change in s to this side now. So it means that we are going to have 2y plus change in y, 2y plus change in y over 2, 2y plus change in y over 2, and sine change in y over 2 all over change in y is equals to what? Is equals to change in s over what? Change in y. Do you get that? I hope you get this. So if I say this 1 over 1 times change in y is still changing as we arrive at this, I've changed nothing. So now, the next thing is, I know that lim has changed in s, or let me say s. Lim has s approaching 0 of sine s over s is equals to what? 1. So it means what is here must be equals to what is here. And here we are having change in y over 2. And here we are only having change in y. So for me to have change in y over 2 here, so I'm going to have same thing here. I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator by what? Half. So now it will be like this: 2 cos 2y plus change in y over 2 sine change in y over 2 all over what? Change in y times 1 over 2 all over 1 over 2 equals to change in y over equals to change in s over change in y. So if I say 1 half divided by half is what? 1 multiplied by this, we arrive at this back. So now if you look at this now, these 2 can cancel out these 2, right? So now, and half times change in y is what? Change in y over 2. So we left with what? Cos 2y plus change in y over 2 and sine change in y over 2 over what? Change in y over 2, which is equals to what? Which is equals to change in s over change in y. So now the next step is to take our limit. So when we take our limits, what are we going to have? Take the limit as change in s change in y approaches 0 of what? Both sides. So now it means that lim as change in y approaching 0 of what? Cos 2y plus change in y over 2 sine change in y over 2 all over change in y over 2 equals to let me take the limit individually the way I've been doing, so you will not get confused. Change in y approaching 0 of sine change in y over 2 over change in y over 2, which is equals to, I'm just trying to take the limit individually. You get that? So now limit as change in y approaching 0 of change in s over what? Change in y. And you will notice what? You will notice that what is here is nothing but what? It's nothing but what? 1. And 1 multiplied by this will still give us this back. So we are going to be left with what? Lim as change in y approaching 0 of what? Cos 2y plus change in y over 2, which is equals to, and what is here is nothing but what? It's nothing but what? The s over what? dy. The s over dy. So now this means that the next thing now is, this means that anywhere I see change in y, I'll replace it with what? 0 for this part only. Do you get that? So now this is my change in y here, right? So it means 2y plus 0. It means it is what? 2y. 2y over 2 is what? Let me write it out. So it means that we are going to have cos 2y plus 0 over 2, which will be equals to what? The s over what? The y. So 2y plus 0 is still what? 2y. 2y over 2 is what? Y. So we left with what? Cos y equals to what? The s over what? The y. But on a normal day, we ought to have what here? The y over the s, not the s over what? The y. So for us to have the y over the s, we have to take the reciprocal of what? Both sides. When we say reciprocal, what's the reciprocal of 2? The reciprocal of 2 equals to what? 1 over 2. Do you get that? And the reciprocal of 1 over 2 is what? 2. Do you get that? So we take the reciprocal of both sides. So it means this one will be what? 1 over cos y equals to what? 1 over the s over what? The y. And don't forget, this 1 divided by the s over the y. I will say 1 divided by the s over the y. It's nothing but what? It's nothing but 1 times, this one will go up, this one will come down. The y over what? The s. So which means 1 times this is what? The y over the s. So it means that 1 all over cos y is equals to what? The y over the s. Are we done? We are almost done. Okay? So now, but don't forget that our cos y, we can write the relationship between cos y and sin y. Don't forget that, let me clean this part. Don't forget that sine cos square y plus sine square y is equals to what? 1. So now, can I make my cos y the subject? Yes, I can make it the subject. So I will say cos square y is equals to 1 minus sine square y. So cos y now will be equals to what? Square root of what? 1 minus sine square y. But your sine y is equals to what? S. So if sine y is equals to s, sine square y will be equals to what? S squared. So your cos y here is equals to what? Square root of 1 minus what? S squared. So can we return this back here? It means that our dy over the s now will be equals to what? Will be equals to what? 1 all over cos y. And cos y is what? Square root of 1 minus what? S squared. So here ends the proof. I hope you understand this. Thanks.